warned me that his boss will try to hit on me. I kind of let it happen. Now I am divorced. Hey Reddit, I honestly never expected I would be sharing my story here, but here I am regardless. My name is Veronica, and I am a 30-year-old woman. I was married to my husband Vincent, who is a 31-year-old man, for about 2 years. And at first, things were going really great. I honestly thought Vincent was going to be the one I spend the rest of my life with, until I made a very grave mistake by not listening to him when he warned me about his boss. Vincent and I met in high school, and it was like we instantly clicked. We shared similar interests, had a great sense of humor, and enjoyed each other's company from the start. It felt like we were meant to be together, and our bond only grew stronger as we navigated through life together. Our first date was both exciting and nerve-wracking. Vincent took me to a cozy cafe downtown, where we sat for hours chatting about everything under the sun. His laughter was contagious, and I found myself opening up to him more than I ever had before. As the evening went on, Vincent surprised me by suggesting we take a walk in the nearby park. The night air was cool, and the park was peaceful with its dimly lit paths. We walked hand in hand, lost in conversation and enjoying each other's presence. As we reached the end of our walk, Vincent leaned in for a shy but sweet goodnight kiss. It was a simple yet meaningful moment that marked the beginning of something special between us. For our second date, Vincent planned a surprise outing that perfectly captured his thoughtful and adventurous spirit. He took me to a quaint art gallery showcasing local artists, knowing my love for art and creativity. It was a refreshing change from our first date, filled with new experiences and shared interests. We wandered through the gallery. Vincent shared his insights on the various artworks, and I was captivated by his passion and knowledge. We laughed at quirky pieces and discussed deeper meanings behind others, deepening our connection through sharing our perspectives. After exploring the gallery, Vincent surprised me again by taking me to a cozy Italian restaurant tucked away in a charming alley. We enjoyed delicious pasta dishes and shared stories from our past, learning more about each other's backgrounds and aspirations. The night ended with a romantic walk under the starlit sky, hand in hand, lost in the magic of the moment. It was on that second date that I realized how much I enjoyed Vincent's company and looked forward to many more adventures together. On our third date, Vincent planned a fun and spontaneous adventure that showcased his playful and adventurous side. He surprised me with tickets to a local amusement park, knowing my love for thrill rides and excitement. We spent the day laughing and enjoying each other's company as we rode roller coasters, played carnival games, and indulged in delicious fair food. Vincent's smile was infectious, and I couldn't help but feel completely at ease and happy in his presence. Between adrenaline-pumping rides and friendly competitions at game booths, we found moments to sit and chat, deepening our connection and getting to know each other even better. Vincent's sense of humor kept the day light and enjoyable, and I found myself falling for his charm more and more. As the sun set and the lights of the amusement park came to life, Vincent surprised me again by taking me on the Ferris wheel. We shared a quiet moment at the top, overlooking the park and the city beyond, and it was in that moment that I realized how special our bond had become in just 3 short dates. For our fourth date, now officially a couple, Vincent planned a romantic evening that reflected our deepening connection and shared interests. He took me to a cozy French restaurant known for its intimate ambiance and exquisite cuisine. Vincent's attentiveness and genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings always made me feel cherished and understood. We savored each bite of the delicious French cuisine and enjoyed the romantic atmosphere. It was a night filled with laughter, meaningful conversations, and a growing sense of love and companionship between us. After dinner, Vincent surprised me with tickets to a live jazz performance at a nearby jazz club. Music had always been a passion of ours, and dancing together to the soulful melodies created a magical moment that I knew I would cherish forever. The night ended and Vincent walked me home, holding my hand and showering me with sweet compliments. It was on that fourth date that I realized how deeply I had fallen for him and how grateful I was to have him by my side. Graduating from high school was a huge moment for us, but it became even more special because Vincent was right there beside me, his smile lighting up the whole ceremony. We tossed our caps in the air. I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and gratitude for having him by my side. When we decided to attend the same university, it felt like a natural progression of our journey together. Throughout our college years, Vincent was not just my boyfriend, but also my biggest supporter and confidant. We attended classes together, tackled challenging assignments, and celebrated each other's successes. His unwavering belief in me gave me the confidence to pursue my passions and strive for excellence. Our college days were a whirlwind of experiences, from late-night study sessions to spontaneous coffee dates in between classes. Vincent's presence made every moment brighter, and I cherished our shared laughter, deep conversations, and quiet moments of reflection. Looking back, I'm grateful for every moment we spent together in college, every challenge we faced and overcame, and every dream we shared. Vincent's love and support was my anchor, and I'm sad to see that I lost such a good man, and it's all my fault. As our relationship progressed over the years and we spent more and more time together, thoughts of marriage started to occupy my mind more frequently. I had always dreamed of finding that forever kind of love, of walking down the aisle in a beautiful wedding gown, surrounded by loved ones, and saying "I do" to the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I began dropping hints about marriage, subtly weaving conversations about weddings and engagements into our daily interactions. Vincent, on the other hand, didn't hold the same fervor for marriage. He was more practical. He was not convinced that a piece of paper could define the strength of our bond or commitment to each other. Despite his reservations, he could see how much marriage meant to me. He knew it was a lifelong dream, a symbol of love and commitment that I cherished deeply. And so, to see me happy, to see that sparkle in my eyes whenever I talked about weddings, he decided to take the leap. One evening, in a moment that caught me completely by surprise, Vincent proposed. It wasn't an extravagant proposal with grand gestures or elaborate plans. Instead, it was a quiet, intimate moment shared between just the two of us, where he expressed his love and desire to make me happy. When he knelt down and held out the ring, I felt a rush of emotions: joy, excitement, and overwhelming love. It wasn't about the size of the diamond or the extravagance of the proposal. It was about the fact that Vincent, despite his reservations about marriage, chose to take that step because he wanted to fulfill my dreams and make me his forever. I said yes without hesitation, of course. I even cried tears of joy. The preparations for our wedding was like riding a roller coaster of emotions. Amidst the excitement of planning our dream day, there were moments of stress and overwhelm that we couldn't ignore. From selecting the venue and finalizing the guest list to finding the perfect dress and coordinating with vendors, every decision felt crucial and sometimes daunting. Our families and friends were thrilled when we shared the news of our engagement. Their excitement and support was like a warm blanket during the hectic planning phase. Both our parents played a significant role in guiding us and lending a helping hand wherever needed, making the journey towards our wedding day a bit smoother. Finding the right venue was a process of exploration and deliberation. We visited numerous locations, weighing factors like ambiance, capacity, and accessibility for our guests. When we finally settled on a venue that felt like it was made for us, it was such a moment of relief and excitement. Shopping for wedding attire was a mix of excitement and nerves. The hunt for my wedding dress involved trying on various styles until I found the one that made me feel like a bride. Vincent looked sharp and dapper in his suit. On our wedding day, there was this crazy mix of excitement, nerves, and total happiness in the air. Getting ready with my girls around me was a whirlwind of emotions. Knowing I was about to marry Vincent, my rock, my love, made my heart race with joy and a bit of jitters too. The venue was decked out in beautiful flowers and decorations that just screamed romance. Walking down that aisle, I couldn't take my eyes off Vincent. Seeing him waiting there for me, with that look of awe and love, made everything else fade away. It was like all the stars aligned right then and there. Our ceremony was this perfect blend of heartfelt words, sweet readings, and those little moments that just make you smile. Saying our vows, promising forever to each other, felt like the most natural thing in the world. After the I do's, it was time to party. Our guests were all in, and we had a blast, from the food to the speeches to the dancing that went on into the night. Our first dance was a highlight, swaying together, feeling like the only two people in the room. Cutting the cake, toasting with our closest friends and family, every moment was just filled with love and happiness. It was like being in a bubble of pure joy, surrounded by the people who mean the most to us. Looking back, our wedding day was everything we dreamed of and more. It was the start of our journey together, and every memory from that day is etched in my heart forever, and I always feel so nostalgic whenever I think of it. After the whirlwind of our wedding day, Vincent and I were more than ready for some downtime and relaxation. We jetted off to our dream honeymoon destination, a secluded beach resort with crystal clear waters and sandy shores. It was like stepping into a paradise made just for us. Our days were filled with lazy mornings, romantic walks along the beach, and indulgent spa treatments. We took adventures together, exploring the local culture, trying new foods, and making memories that would last a lifetime. It was a perfect blend of relaxation and adventure, just what we needed to start our married life on the right foot. Coming back from our honeymoon, we were still basking in that newlywed glow. Settling into married life felt natural and comfortable. We merged our belongings, created our own little nest, and started making plans for our future together. There was this sense of excitement and anticipation in the air as we talked about our dreams and goals. We made plans for our careers, our home, and eventually starting a family. It was a time of bonding and growing even closer as a couple. We navigated the ups and downs of everyday life, and we always made time for each other. Date nights, weekend getaways, and simple moments of laughter and love kept our relationship strong and vibrant. Since Vincent worked, I was a stay-at-home wife, and at first I embraced the role of a stay-at-home wife with open arms. Vincent's job was demanding but lucrative, providing us with a comfortable life where I didn't need to work. It felt like a luxury to focus on making our home a cozy haven, cooking meals from scratch, and tending to all the little details that made our life together special. I relished in the freedom to pursue my hobbies and interests, whether it was painting, gardening, or trying out new recipes. Our home was like my canvas, a place where I could express myself and create a warm and inviting atmosphere for us. While Vincent was at work, I enjoyed the solitude and quietude of our home. It gave me the space to recharge, reflect, and appreciate the simple pleasures of life. I took pride in being there for Vincent when he came home, and providing him a comforting presence and a listening ear after his long days at work. Our home became a sanctuary where we could unwind, recharge, and nurture our relationship. However, as time went on, I started to feel a longing for something more. While I cherished my role as a homemaker, I also craved a sense of fulfillment outside our home. The days started to feel repetitive, and I yearned for new challenges and experiences beyond our domestic life. Like I've said before, as time went by, being a stay-at-home wife started to feel like a broken record. The days blurred into each other, doing the same chores and routines over and over again. What used to bring me joy and purpose now felt like a never-ending cycle of monotony. I found myself craving something more, something to break the boredom and inject excitement into my days. It was like I was stuck in a rut, yearning for new challenges and experiences outside the confines of our home. Sure, I enjoyed having the flexibility to manage our household and pursue hobbies, but deep down, I felt a sense of emptiness. The lack of meaningful engagement beyond our home's walls left me feeling isolated and disconnected from the world. I missed the buzz of interacting with people outside our immediate circle, the thrill of learning something new, and the satisfaction of achieving personal goals. It was as if life had hit a pause button, and I desperately wanted to hit play again and explore new horizons. Despite trying to keep myself occupied with various activities, the boredom lingered like a persistent cloud. It was a wake-up call that I needed a change, a fresh start that would reignite my passion and zest for life. I knew that wasn't cut out for the 9-to-5 grind. The thought of being confined to a rigid schedule day in and day out didn't sit well with me. I knew I'd quickly grow weary and restless in such a structured environment. So I made a bold decision. I decided to venture into entrepreneurship and open my own massage parlor. The idea of having my own business excited me. It offered me the freedom to set my own working hours and create a space that reflected my passion for massage therapy. I had always been skilled at it, and I saw no reason not to turn it into a thriving business. Of course, starting a business required capital, and that's where Vincent came in. I approached him with my business idea, explaining my vision and how I wanted to make it a reality. To my delight, he was incredibly supportive. Vincent wanted nothing more than to see me happy and fulfilled, so he provided the necessary capital to kickstart my venture. I started small, hiring a receptionist and 2 other talented masseurs to join me in providing top-notch services. My goal was to create a welcoming and relaxing environment for our clients, where they could unwind and experience the benefits of massage therapy. Once the business grew, I would employ more masseurs and eventually even stop giving massages myself. My massage parlor wasn't exactly booming, but it was doing okay. We had managed to gain some traction in the market, and I was grateful for that. However, I must admit I wasn't the best when it came to managing finances. There were times when I needed Vincent's help to sort things out, but he was always willing to assist. He was just happy to see me engaged in something I loved. A few months after opening the store, Vincent invited me to accompany him as his date for a work event. During the drive there, he warned me about his boss's flirtatious nature and advised me to shut down any advances. I nodded, thinking it wouldn't be a big deal. At the event, Vincent introduced me to his boss. True to his warning, his boss immediately started flirting. I felt a bit flattered and, I must admit, enjoyed the attention. I brushed off Vincent's subtle hints and attempts to shut it down, convincing myself it was harmless banter. When his boss asked about my profession, I proudly mentioned my massage parlor. To my surprise, he seemed genuinely interested and asked for a business card. Vincent's expression shifted slightly, signaling his discomfort, but I ignored it and handed over the card. His boss even made a suggestive joke about extracurricular activities at the parlor, to which I laughed off and assured him we didn't offer such services. Looking back, I realized I should have listened to Vincent and handled the situation more responsibly. But in the moment, I was caught up in the excitement of networking and the flattering attention from his boss. It was a mistake that I would soon come to regret. On the drive home from the event, Vincent couldn't hide his disappointment. He tried to talk to me about how he felt that I had disregarded his advice regarding his boss's flirtatious behavior. He expressed concern about how it might reflect on both of us and our relationship. However, caught up in the excitement of the evening and my desire to network and promote my business, I brushed off his concerns. I told him to relax and take a chill pill, assuring him that it was just harmless networking. I didn't realize the impact my actions were having on him and our relationship at that moment. Vincent seemed unconvinced but dropped the subject for the time being. Little did I know that my actions that night would have far-reaching consequences that would soon come to light. The next day at the massage parlor, to my surprise, Vincent's boss showed up for a massage. He specifically requested that I attend to him, insisting that I, as the owner, provide him with the service. I was initially hesitant given the previous night's flirtatious interactions, but I rationalized that he was just a client and nothing more. Reluctantly, I agreed to provide him with the massage. During the session, I maintained a professional demeanor, focusing solely on delivering a quality massage. To my surprise, Vincent's boss seemed satisfied with the service and left me a generous tip before departing. Despite the interaction being purely business-related, I couldn't shake off the discomfort I felt about the situation, considering the fact that he was Vincent's boss and Vincent had warned me about him. Also, there was the fact that Vincent's boss was married too. I contemplated whether to inform Vincent about his boss's visit to the parlor, but I knew deep down that he wouldn't react well. Given his previous warnings and concerns, I anticipated that he would be upset and possibly overthink the situation. Ultimately, I decided to keep the encounter to myself, believing that business should remain separate from personal matters, even if it meant keeping secrets from my husband. A few days passed without anything major happening until Vincent's boss unexpectedly showed up at the massage parlor again. He insisted that I handle his massage personally, and although I felt uneasy about it, I agreed to do the massage. During the session, things took a very flirty turn as his boss started with compliments and playful banter. I made the mistake of reciprocating, getting caught up in the moment and enjoying the attention, which I later regretted deeply. Despite my discomfort, his boss seemed satisfied with the massage and left me a significantly larger tip than usual before leaving. It left me feeling conflicted and guilty, especially given Vincent's warnings and the potential fallout from my actions, but I still convinced myself that business was business and that there was nothing else going on. Again, for at least 2 days, things went on fine and nothing major happened before Vincent's boss visited my massage parlor again, and like before, I was the one to attend to him. This time he came in quite late. Very close to our closing hours, my masseurs had already clocked out, so I attended to him. He was very flirty and I flirted back. He then invited me out for some drinks and, well, I accepted. Since my receptionist hadn't left yet, I asked her to finish and lock up and left with Vincent's boss. He took me out for drinks and I enjoyed myself immensely, to be honest. I had a lot of fun, and even though red flags kept going off in my head that what I was doing wasn't appropriate, I ignored them. He even paid for all the drinks and then asked for my number, which I gave to him before he dropped me off at home. I hadn't taken my car that day, so I made him drop me a few blocks away in case Jason was home so he wouldn't know his boss had been the one to drop me off. Afterward, I felt conflicted about my actions, knowing they were inappropriate and could jeopardize my marriage. I tried to rationalize my behavior as networking and kept my interactions with his boss a secret from Vincent. However, deep down, I knew I was treading dangerous waters and was filled with guilt and uncertainty. I should have never given Vincent's boss my number in the first place. I started talking to him all the time, and as a result of this, my growing connection with Richard, Vincent's boss, it began to create a rift in my relationship with Vincent. I found myself spending more time chatting with Richard, eagerly awaiting his messages, and gradually withdrawing from Vincent. This change in my behavior didn't go unnoticed by Vincent, who started to feel the distance between us and the fading intimacy in our relationship. Our interactions became strained as my focus shifted more towards my conversations with Richard, and this led to a significant emotional impact on their marriage. I soon found myself in an even more difficult position, where Vincent was trying his best to mend the growing gap between us. He made efforts to spend quality time together, express his love, and address any concerns I had, but my infatuation with Richard clouded my judgment. I was so drawn to Richard's attention and the excitement of our conversations that I became oblivious to Vincent's efforts. Deep down, I still loved Vincent, but my infatuation with Richard blinded me to the impact my actions were having on my marriage. Soon, Richard and I started to do more than just chat. We started hanging out together, we went out for drinks, watched movies together when Richard's wife wasn't home, of course, and engaged in long conversations. Despite trying to convince myself that it was just harmless fun, I couldn't deny the growing emotional connection I felt towards him, in fact. I found myself increasingly drawn to Richard's company. Even though I still loved Vincent, the thrill of being with Richard clouded my judgment, and I continued to neglect my relationship with Vincent, spending less time together and becoming more distant. I was torn between my loyalty to Vincent and the allure of my newfound connection with Richard. Despite my internal struggle, I continued to engage with Richard, enjoying the attention and validation he provided. And well, one day while I was hanging out at Richard's house, his wife wasn't home, of course, I crossed the boundary I promised myself that I never would. I cheated on Vincent with Richard, and the weight of my actions crushed me. I struggled with what to tell Vincent, knowing that he would never forgive me for such a betrayal. The realization of what I had done hit me hard. I was consumed with guilt and regret. I couldn't believe I had let things escalate to that point, ignoring the consequences and the damage it would cause to my marriage. I knew that honesty was the only way forward, but I dreaded the fallout and the pain it would bring to Vincent. The guilt gnawed at my conscience, and I couldn't even look Vincent in the eye without feeling like I had betrayed him in the worst possible way. I tried to bury my guilt and act normal around him, but the weight of my secret was unbearable. I was torn between confessing and keeping my mistake hidden. I knew that either way, it would irreversibly change my relationship with Vincent. Cheating was a deal breaker for Vincent, and he would most likely never forgive me for this. And on the other hand, not telling Vincent anything would make my conscience forever judge me. But I also couldn't lose my husband. I wondered how I had let things spiral and get that bad before I realized it. I was also shocked and devastated when Richard suddenly cut off all contact with me. It was as if a switch had been flipped and he disappeared from my life without a trace. He stopped coming to the massage parlor, ignored my texts, and when I finally confronted him, his cold response shattered my world. When Richard bluntly told me to stop texting him and declared that he was done with me, I felt such a mix of betrayal, anger, and humiliation. I realized that I had been used, that Richard had manipulated me emotions and taken advantage of my vulnerability and stupidity. Now I understood why Richard wanted me to stay away from his boss. The pain of being discarded so callously by someone I thought I had a connection with was overwhelming. My self-esteem plummeted as I fought with the harsh reality of Richard's true intentions. I had allowed myself to be swept up in an affair, only to be cast aside like a disposable object. The experience left me questioning my judgment and feeling deeply wounded. I still couldn't believe that I had been so blind to Richard's deceit and manipulation. The realization that I might lose my marriage and had also lost my dignity in pursuit of a fleeting attraction was a bitter pill to swallow. I poured all my energy into trying to take my marriage back to the beautiful stage it used to be at, showering Vincent with affection, cooking his favorite meals, and attempting to reconnect on a deeper level. But no matter how hard I tried, it seemed like Vincent had built a wall between us. He became distant. His warmth was now replaced by a coldness I had never experienced before. Initially, I thought it was just a phase, a natural reaction to the fact that I had been distant from him for so long. I hoped that with time and effort, we could rebuild what we had lost. However, as days turned into weeks, Vincent's detachment only grew. Our conversations became strained, filled with awkward silences and forced smiles. It felt like we were living in separate worlds despite being under the same roof. My attempts at reconciliation were met with indifference or at times outright rejection. Vincent's withdrawal wounded me deeply. I yearned for the closeness we once shared, the easy laughter and intimate moments that now seemed like distant memories. I blamed myself for everything, wishing I could turn back time and undo my mistake. Despite my relentless efforts, the rift between us remained. Vincent's heart had hardened, and despite my best intentions, I couldn't break through the walls he had erected. I felt like a stranger in my own marriage, and I missed the old Vincent so much. Vincent finally revealed that he knew I had cheated. We were having breakfast, a seemingly normal morning until he blindsided me with a question. He asked me if I was happy now. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as Vincent's question hung in the air. I tried to keep my composure. I asked him what he meant, but deep down I knew exactly what he was referring to. It was as if the truth I had been avoiding was now staring me in the face. Vincent didn't even mince words. He told me to cut the crap. He said he knew I had cheated, and that it was pretty stupid to pretend as if I didn't know what he was talking about. I felt exposed and vulnerable. I had hoped he hadn't found out, that maybe I could sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened. But Vincent's quiet demeanor, his distant attitude lately, it all made sense now. My mind raced. I kept searching for words to explain, to justify, but guilt weighed heavy on my chest. How could I have let it get this far? How could I have been so blind to the consequences of my actions? I wanted to reach out, to plead for forgiveness, but I knew deep down that some mistakes couldn't be undone. Vincent just kept staring at me. I realized that the trust we once shared had been shattered irreparably. I felt a huge pang of regret, not just for the act of betrayal, but for the hurt I had caused Vincent, the man I had vowed to love and cherish. Vincent told me that all these while he had been trying his best to forgive me, but the trust we once shared was shattered irreparably. The pain in his eyes mirrored the ache in my chest as he labeled me the dumbest person for disregarding his warning and breaking our sacred trust. I wanted to reach out, to apologize and beg for forgiveness, but I knew deep down that there was no going back. Cheating had been the ultimate deal breaker for him, and no amount of remorse could turn back time and undo the damage I had caused. I started crying. It was as if I now realized the gravity of my actions. I desperately begged Vincent for forgiveness. I pleaded with him to give our marriage another chance, promising to do whatever it took to make amends and rebuild the trust we had lost. Vincent didn't even want to listen to me. His expression was so cold and distant. He gave me an ultimatum, stating that I had hours to pack my stuff and leave. I was still in a state of shock and devastation. I watched as Vincent went to our room and brought out divorce papers for me to sign. It was as if everything crumbled around me, the weight of my actions crashing down with unbearable force. I tried to speak, to plead once more for forgiveness, but his resolve was unyielding. At first, I couldn't bring myself to sign those divorce papers. I tore them up, hoping it would somehow erase the reality of what was happening. But Vincent, with a calm yet resolute demeanor, went back to our room and returned with another copy. That's when it hit me. There was no escaping it. This was all my fault, and I had to face the consequences. With a heavy heart, I signed the papers, each stroke of the pen feeling like a nail in the coffin of my marriage. As I packed my belongings, a sense of dread and uncertainty crept over me. I reached out to my family members, hoping to find a place to stay, but my options were limited. My parents' house was already cramped, and my sister's husband wasn't open to having me stay with them. The rest of my family seemed indifferent, leaving me with nowhere to turn but to face the harsh reality of my actions alone. With limited options for a place to stay, I made the decision to rent a room in a motel. I didn't have much money saved up, but I had enough to cover the expenses for a few weeks, giving me some time to figure things out and find a more permanent solution. The thought crossed my mind that if I couldn't afford the motel anymore, I might have to resort to staying at a homeless shelter. Fortunately, Vincent and I had separate financial accounts. We only used the joint account for shared expenses and bills, so there wasn't much complexity in splitting our finances. Vincent had always been more financially savvy and prudent, which led him to maintain his own account separate from ours. After finishing packing my belongings, I left our shared home, and from that moment on, everything seemed to spiral downhill. Vincent had bought the car I used, so I had to leave it behind, adding to my challenges. I found temporary shelter in a cheap motel for a few weeks, but I know for a fact that if I don't find a source of income in a few weeks, I'm going to have to move to a homeless shelter. The fallout from my actions spread to every aspect of my life. Friends who were once close turned their backs on me after Vincent shared the truth about my infidelity. My massage parlor, which was already struggling, took a massive hit. I had never been financially savvy and always left Vincent to handle our finances. And now that I was on my own, I faced the harsh reality of my financial shortcomings. To keep afloat, I had to sell off equipment from the parlor, let go of the few staff members I had, and ultimately, I had to close down my business. It felt like everything I had built was crumbling before my eyes, and I was left with nothing but regret and the consequences of my actions. In the divorce proceedings, I ended up with nothing. Since we didn't have any children, there was no child support to rely on. Moreover, my infidelity meant that I wasn't entitled to alimony either. It was a huge reminder of the consequences of my actions and how they had led to the loss of not just my marriage, but also any financial support I could have received. I felt the full weight of my loneliness when even my family turned away from me. It was a dark time, but amidst the darkness, there was a bitter sense of satisfaction knowing that I wasn't alone in facing the fallout. Just before our divorce was finalized and Vincent and I cut off all communication, he sent me a message filled with spiteful triumph. He gleefully told me that he had found Richard's wife on Facebook and spilled everything, including the screenshots of my conversations with Richard. Vincent revealed that Richard's wife had promptly divorced him and thrown him out of their home. Adding insult to injury, Richard lost his job shortly after, allegedly because his wife's connections had secured him the position in the first place. Vincent even hinted that he might receive a promotion as a result of this entire ordeal. Call me callous, but I'm glad that I wasn't the only one suffering from the consequences of our actions. He has used and dumped me, so he deserved worse even. I hope for better days ahead for me, though. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I really needed a place to rant.